On today's Star Wars Legends lore video, we talk about the perfect army. Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another Star Wars Legends lore video. This is a video I've been meaning to do for a while. Previously, I did my perfect fleet, and this is sort of supposed to be a sequel to that, and one that you guys have asked for a lot. So I only have a few rules. We're focusing mostly on vehicles here, rather than troops. The vehicles, however, can come from any faction or era, but I will be sticking with Star Wars Legends only. I'm also going to avoid using highly expensive, rare, or otherwise experimental vehicles. So no super tank, for instance. To try to keep things reined in, I've been selecting vehicles based on category or function. So tanks, transports, artillery, etc. I'm going to try to keep it to 2 or less vehicles for each category. Let's get started with one of the most important aspects of any ground-based force, the scout units. In this category, we have so much choice. There are so many different speeder bike types in the Star Wars universe that it's really hard to nail down just one. I do think my army will want different purpose-built scouts for both urban environments and the wild. For difficult terrain, I really like Darth Maul's Bloodfin. It's very fast, highly maneuverable, and perhaps most importantly, an extraordinarily small target. I would, however, add on a sensor package and maybe some extra armor and light weaponry. You'd lose a little bit of speed, but I think would make the craft more usable for the average soldier. In urban or dense environments, I think something like the Naboo Seraph, a speeder with a light weapon, would work quite effectively. But I mean, the primary purpose of a scout is certainly not to attack, it's to see the enemy and perhaps drop off troops. However, the next category, which I've called fast attack vehicles, is meant to get in, do damage, and to leave quickly. There are a few really good choices for this list. One of them would be the Saber Tank. I'm going to talk more about that later, so I'll come back to it. Walkers, I think, also operate really well in this role. I don't like the AT-ST. I don't think it's a very versatile or even effective vehicle. The AT-RT is fine, but I don't like that the driver is exposed, and I wish it had more weapons. I think a really good compromise is the advanced AT-AR. This vehicle is light but well protected with armor, and the advanced version also has additional weapons systems. It's not as fast as the AT-RT, but the driver's not exposed, and I think it carries a good deal more firepower. Let's move a size up now and take a look at tanks. Tanks perform very wide functions within the Star Wars universe, from escorting even larger vehicles to operating as transports to being the main point of assault for an army. You guys know me though, I like my vehicles to be relatively specialized, and it's not any different when talking about tanks. I think that tanks should be one of the main damage dealing entities within any singular attack force. That's why as my main battle tank, I choose the AAT. The AAT is loaded with weapons including anti-vehicle and anti-personnel cannons, and carries with it a variety of missiles. This allows it to attack and take down any target that it encounters. It also has an independently aiming turret, which is fairly rare in the Star Wars universe for some reason, and heavy armor. The AAT's main gun is actually accurate and fast enough that in episode 1 we see it blast an N1 starfighter down as it's leaving the hangar on Naboo. What's more, the AAT is also very effective as artillery. It can easily arc its shells and hit targets from far away, especially with its advanced sensor systems. However, the AAT is certainly not perfect, and it has two main weaknesses in my eyes. The first is the fact that it doesn't have a shield, and secondly, the back of the vehicle is extremely vulnerable, especially if the weapon is pointed forward. I think the Republic Saber Tank would actually really well complement the AAT, and I would include both in my army. The Saber Tank is much faster, it's well shielded, it's very maneuverable and very adaptable, but it doesn't have the same kind of weaponry as the AAT. I see the Saber sort of as an escort tank. It would protect the AAT in its vulnerable positions, and also it works really well against infantry. As I said, I also think the Saber is an excellent fast attack vehicle in most environments. It has repulsor lifts, so it can cross even difficult terrain. It's very fast, very agile, and it has a good combination just of defense, attack potential, and maneuverability that you don't often see in Star Wars land vehicles. Let's now take a look at my next vehicle. I'm not really sure what to call this one. I thought about maybe escort or anti-personnel vehicle. This is really something you'd include with other ground-based vehicles to thin out troop numbers. For this role, I chose the Octoptara Magna Tri-Droid. This is one of the CIS's greatest battlefield developments. It has 360-degree sensors, so it can see enemies from any direction at once. It has a multitude of laser cannons, which can be used to take down infantry, and also very powerful missiles, which in Revenge of the Sith we see take down a Republic Trident in a single shot. I think the Tri-Droid would work very well in urban environments where it could spot out hiding soldiers. I think it would do a really good job protecting bases, and its only real weakness is its size. It would be a target for heavy vehicles. Still, it's terrifying and incredibly effective. Moving on to transports, I think you guys all know what I'm going to choose here. Obviously, you need transports of different sizes. I'm not going to go into that too much because it's not really interesting. The type of transport you choose would depend highly on the environment of the planet you're invading and also the amount of troops you needed. However, the best transport within my army would be the Republic Juggernaut. The HAVW-A6 was gigantic, it was armed to the teeth, it was incredibly durable, and really it was the perfect transport. When rolling this thing out into the battlefield, you're basically guaranteed that your troops will be fine inside, you have a mobile command base, and you have an incredible offensive asset. Just to reiterate that, like we see on Kashyyyk, the Juggernaut is great not only for bringing troops on battle, but actually for establishing a front or a line of defense. Where necessary, other Juggernaut models could be used, but the HAVW-A6 is certainly my favorite. I think it's also important to have a large walker, something that would make the enemy crap their pants and that can dish out a whole lot of damage. If I was going with Legends and Canon, I would choose the AT-M6. Since we're doing just Legends, however, I think the AT-AHT is a very good alternative. We don't know the specific loadout of this vehicle, but it appears to have, like the Mega Caliber 6, a heavy cannon on the top, as well as secondary cannons to protect the flank of the walker. Much more effective, I would guess, than the standard AT-AT. This vehicle also operates well as a sort of mobile base. It can carry with it speeders or many troops, making it a transport as well. Next up, we have artillery. Now, many of the vehicles I've talked about already have a small artillery function within them. For example, the AAT, the AT-AHT, but I think dedicated artillery is needed. I really like the SPHA and the SPMA models. I know some of you aren't as big a fans of the SPHA, but I really do like it. It's heavily customizable and adaptable, meaning you can use it on different missions. All you need to do is change out the weapon while keeping the chassis. But to be fair, it only works against very large targets, and perhaps not if the target is out of line of sight. That's why I would supplement it with the SPMA, which is a much smaller version of the artillery used by the Empire. On an even smaller level, I would also include all-terrain attack pods. Sure, they can't output the same type of firepower as their larger brothers here, but they're extremely mobile, they're heavily armored, and their mass driver cannon is really nothing to laugh at. They also, I think at least, look really cool. So we've got a couple of categories left that I would like to briefly touch. First, we have speeders. Yes, I am focusing on ground vehicles in this list, but speeders are certainly also part of an army. I really have two favorite speeders. I really like the V-Wing because it's highly militarized. It's basically like a starfighter meant to operate in an atmosphere exclusively, and I really like the droid dropship, which I think is chronically underrated. I mean, it wouldn't be able to transport people, you'd have to use something like a LAT for that, but it has its missile launchers, it can drop droids off in literally seconds, it's just a quality vessel. I think my army also would heavily use droids. Yeah, droids aren't always as smart as the standard trooper, but they can be transported so easily they'll throw themselves to death with really no question, and you can always just build another one. However, if I had to choose just one for my army, I would actually go with one of the most expensive ones, the B3 Ultra. We see the B3 Ultra is capable of taking on multiple Jedi Masters at once, it's towering, it's incredibly well armed and durable, there's not much that can take on a B3 one-on-one. I think it would be really good for that fear factor within my army. So that's the EckhartsLadder army. What do you think? What would you choose? Let me know specifically what tank, scout, artillery, and fast attack vehicle you would include in your army. Also, hey, why not let me know your favorite walker? Because I think walkers are one of the most unique and one of the coolest parts of Star Wars lore, although admittedly their functionality can leave a little bit to be desired. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see my best Navy video, click the top right corner of the screen right now. If you want more EckhartsLadder, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, and consider donating on Patreon. Right now, I'm also in the midst of recording some content for my second channel. Specifically, I've been given a beta copy of version 2.2 of Thrawn's Revenge for Empire at War, which isn't out yet, but is a whole lot of fun. If you're interested in that or Empire at War generally, make sure to subscribe to my second channel. We'll have notifications on so you don't miss any videos or streams. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, this has been EckhartsLadder. May the force be with you.